afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. I just wanted to welcome everyone on behalf of the Red River Valley Asperger Autism Network and Prairie St. John. My name is Margie Gray, and I will be setting up with a brief presentation, sort of an overview of the topic. This is by no means comprehensive. It is a starting point for the conversation, so know that. We have a panel of experts with us today. So, without further ado, I'd like for our panel to introduce themselves, if you don't mind. Emily, would you start?
Yes, I'm Emily Keller-Hansen. I'm one of the child and adolescent therapists here at Prairie St. John, and I work specifically in our partial hospitalization program for kids on the autism spectrum.
Hello, my name is John Cody. I have Asperger's. I'm on the spectrum. I'm able to give you that perspective there. I am the video editor for our organization. I'm on the Speakers Bureau for our organization, and I give public speeches to various organizations that I give from time to time. And I enjoy helping people out with this. I enjoy sharing my experiences, and I hope to help you today.
My name is Brandon Booth. I am also on the spectrum, and I have autism.
All right. So, our topic today, summer fun, hopefully. So, for a lot of folks, summer means time for a break from school and fun things to do and really exploring and having lots of great opportunities. For other individuals, it may mean break in routine, lots of unstructured time, things that are not necessarily conducive to having fun, so to speak, and can really set up families for some difficult times if they're not prepared. So getting ready for summer. The key is planning, being prepared, knowing that there are a lot of possibilities for how a summer can go, but the planning and the research are going to be key. One of the things that we found is that involving our son in researching and figuring out exactly what it is we're going to do over the summer really helps in the process and in terms of our success for having fun for the summer. So from a big picture perspective, there are really three topics that I identified were big for us in terms of preparing for the summer. So number one, what can stay the same? Are there some special interests that we have a little bit more time in our schedule that we could pursue that would add some interest and fun for the summer? And then planning for trips, because for a lot of families visiting relatives, going on vacations can be a big part of the summer. So starting out with what can stay the same. So meeting the needs, keep it consistent as much as possible. Now, obviously, everything that we say is certainly based on the child's needs. And what works for one child is not going to work for another. Adjustments in schedule. So keeping a schedule may be really good for a lot of kids on the spectrum. So the things that could stay the same, getting up in the morning. I know for us, we made sure that there was one summer when it just all went somewhere in a hand cart, you know? And part of the deal was there was no get up time. There was no getting dressed in the morning. We might get dressed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon if we decided to. The next summer we did things differently, and it made a huge difference in his ability to cope with what was going on. So keeping structure in the areas where structure can be maintained can be very helpful. We make some adjustments in terms of what time is the latest get-up time or what time is bedtime. But for us, we try to keep it as close to school bedtime as possible because it makes for a much more difficult shift in the fall when we're trying to get back to that earlier bedtime. So A lot of times it's tough if all the neighborhood kids are out playing at 10 o'clock at night because it's still sort of daylight in July at 10 o'clock. But we try to really push for keeping some things as consistent as possible. So time to explore special interests. That is an interesting, it creates a whole set of interesting possibilities. So identifying the possible activities. What is the individual's real focus of interest? I know we've done STEM camp during the summer. My son likes sports. So we do some sporting activities. Getting into, once we've identified possible activities, getting into making choices, boy, can that be a minefield. We've gotten into those situations where it's like, well, you can either do this or you can do that. But I want to do both, okay, but they happen at the exact same time. So we have to choose one or the other. And we've been through some real meltdown situations over that were just, I couldn't even get my head around what we were going through in that moment over two things that are physically taking place at the same time. So one of the good things about that is that really, if it's approached up front when it's not emotional, we're all in the green zone and we're able to cope and all of those kinds of things are going on, working on making choices can really help to build skill for even for times when maybe we're not in the green zone or maybe it's at school. Things like that. So laying the groundwork, I mean, we can actually make progress and continue to learn and grow in the summer by setting those things up in advance and really being able to plan ahead. Collaborating on how to make it work. This has been wonderful, a wonderful learning experience in our family. So giving him those choices and then saying, okay, well, but how can we make this work? Or if you want to do this, this is what it means. How can we make that happen? Getting him involved in the planning has been amazing in terms of getting his commitment, getting his cooperation. Oh my gosh, cooperation. That's really made a big difference for us. So that collaboration piece really can be helpful. And knowing when too much is just too much. I mentioned before that my son likes to play sports. Well, his area of focus is sports. He never met a sport he didn't absolutely love. And he is all about the statistics and the rules and playing it and fairness and all of those things that go along with sports. Well, he wants to do it all. And we had to really take a step back as his parents and say, you know what, we go. And at some point, it's just too much. So he was forced to make some choices for this summer. He was told, well, if you do this, then it means you can't do that. But I really want to do that. And I said, well, you have to choose between the two because it's just too much. You play sports all day and then go play all evening, and then you're exhausted and can't cope. So knowing when too much is just too much, and too much is really, really an individual scale. So it's really important to know their scale for what is too much and to involve them in helping to figure out what is too much. The bonus that I see with these opportunities to explore special interests is that they get to meet other kids, other individuals who have similar interests, and that creates an opportunity for them to connect with other individuals and really to start to build some social skills. And that to me is a real bonus of exploring those areas of special interest. Trips, vacations, and the leap of faith that we're going to make it through this and that nobody's going to kill each other as part of the process. So I think that some of the things that have been important to us as we've planned travel is that, once again, structure is important. Setting expectations so that he knows what to expect, that he knows to expect that we're not on a schedule. We've started prepping right up front. Well, these are some of the things that we might do, but we haven't really figured out exactly when we're going to do things. So, you may need to start out with having a very planned schedule. But backing off of that little by little can help to build the skill of flexibility, especially if you're prepping it up front. Making sure that there are familiar things available, so that when on day 3, when that individual has reached their max of new experiences and lack of schedule and the unfamiliar, that they've got their gaming device or a movie that they've watched 500 times, but that makes them feel comfortable and at home, and it's familiar and comforting. Setting expectations, both for the individual as well as for if you're visiting family. Setting expectations for family can be a really important part of traveling and having those visits, because when we go to visit people, a lot of times it's go, go, go on their schedule almost, right? They want to have fun with the kids. They want to show them new experiences. Setting some boundaries and some expectations for that, setting aside time, downtime, and making that clear to family. There are going to be times where we're just going to need to sit and color, or sit and play Legos, or sit and watch a movie. So that those expectations are set up front, not just for your nuclear family, but for the extended family as well, can be really helpful in managing expectations. Downtime, planned and unplanned breaks. It's important to be able to recognize that moment where it's time for a break. We just all need some chill time. And being able to respond to that is really an important piece of it. And once again, when too much is still just too much. So being able to back off from the plan and take that time. So travel tips. We've traveled quite a few times flying, and there's a unique set of challenges because it's lots of people, it's lots of noises. You can't control it. The flights are delayed. This is like the minefield for ASD, right? So the things that really have helped us were, number one, burning off energy ahead of time. So whatever that looks like for the individual that you're supporting, it's important to keep that in mind and make sure that they have an opportunity to expend energy. Gate agents can help, and this is something that honestly, I've been doing this for probably right about a year. Going to the gate agent and saying, my son is on the autism spectrum, and the boarding process is really stressful for him. Is it possible for us to pre-board? And without exception, the response I've gotten has been, whatever is going to work for you. When we call for pre-boarding, you can come pre-board, or if it works better for you to wait to the very last minute, you can board after everybody's on the plane. Whatever is going to work for you. For us, the waiting is part of the problem, so we generally pre-board. It has made traveling by airplane so much easier because he's not stressed out when he gets on the plane. By the time we would get through the crowd and the people in close and the line and the waiting and all that, by the time we would get on the plane, he'd be just like, oh. He is so relaxed and comfortable when we get on the plane when we do that pre-boarding. So they can be really helpful. Making sure that we have snacks that support him. So he likes sugar. Because that could be a trigger, he gets very, very limited sugar. But being hungry and uncomfortable are triggers for him. So I always make sure that I've got something that could serve as a blanket, whether it's my jacket or a shawl or his jacket. I've got food, I've got the things that make him comfortable. So whether it's his gaming, we always have both his gaming device and we've got movies downloaded on one of the tablets. The Boy Scout motto of "Be prepared" is my mantra when I'm getting ready to travel. Lose the shoes. That's the first thing he does, is he gets in his seat, he gets comfortable, whether it's sitting with his legs crossed or whatever, he just gets comfortable in his space, and that's going to make things go a lot easier. And just being prepared for the delays, and a lot of that goes right back to games and movies and things like that, but also preparing him up front by saying, now remember, things don't always go on schedule when we travel. And there's nothing we can do about it. So we just have to sit back, take a deep breath, and find something fun to do while we're waiting for them. All right? So that's my sort of big picture overview to start the conversation. In addition to these points, so there's a lot more detail on traveling, on vacation tips in general in your packet. So, and we've gathered a list of, which is by no means comprehensive, our list of activities. If you know of other activities, if you can write them on your feedback form and submit those to us as well, because as we put this information on the website, then it will be available not only to other people, but to us as well, because most of us are connected to, not most of us, all of us are connected to autism spectrum disorder and the individuals who are working with that. So please, if you know of other activities, make sure that you include those. In terms of preparing for the summer, is there some word of advice or just a word of inspiration that you can give to individuals who are preparing for the impending summer, although it doesn't seem like it's nearly close enough right now?
Well, I can say is keep as much normalcy as you can. If things start getting too far off schedule, you'll wreck your schedule for the fall, and just keep things as normal as possible.
I would agree with that as well. Do keep some structure, keep some activities, some fun activities, because I do know that if you have like no activities going on, and your brain is not being active, you can start reaching initial anxiety and problems if there's just nothing on your mind at all. It will just find things to when you have to. So plan for some activities. They can be fun activities. They can be something that will just keep them busy, but yet not stressful. So yeah.
Can I ask, I'd like to ask a question, because this is something that I noticed, and that is, like, the first 3 days of a vacation are okay, and then it's like we hit a wall and things sort of fall apart. Can you speak to that at all, as to what's going on there and what?
Yeah, I actually can. It takes a lot of energy, physical and mental energy, to adjust to new surroundings, new stuff going on in a vacation, and so you're spending the energy to there's the excitement, there's something new, and you can be having a lot of fun, but at some point that energy just runs out, and that's where you hit the wall. Because then at that point you're exhausted, your resources are lower, and you can start running into some problems there. So just find some ways to kind of stretch out that energy, maybe not do quite as many activities at one single time. But yeah, I know what that's like. You just kind of run out of energy. Your mental resources are lower. So that's just the wall you're seeking there.
I know for me, I was in 4th grade, and probably the longest trip I've taken, and back then they didn't know that I had it. But my mom told me, because I traveled by train from here to Southern California. My mom's like, told me, now this is going to be a 2-day train ride, and I had to really prepare for lots of stuff and lots of books. So it was almost a 28-hour train ride. California.
Emily, is there anything you'd like to add in terms of that preparation for the
Yeah,
summer?
I think one thing that we notice a lot with the kids that we work with is that a lot of how they calculate time is really event-based and not necessarily clock or calendar-based in the way that, you know, I would look at my watch and think, okay, I've got 15 minutes left. They might be working on an activity and think, I'm done when I'm done. And so if I don't get to that spot and I'm not done, then it doesn't matter what the clock says. And so we do a lot with kids, whether it's planning for summer vacation or a specific trip, of how do we do a visual reminder? Do we make a paper chain where we write, you know, or put a picture every day that'll be something fun that we're looking forward to on that trip, so that we have kind of a task, you know, physical countdown, instead of just feeling, when are we going on that trip? You told me we're going on a trip. I've had some families that will plan a trip, but will wait until it gets closer to tell the child about it, and maybe give them a week to think about it and not 3 months to kind of ruminate. I would also really clarify with kids what their ideas and expectations are of this trip, because we might say, okay, we're going camping. And for one family, that might mean we're renting an RV and we're going to be in a camper. And for another family, that might mean we're in a tent and we're hiking. And so camping can mean lots of different things. And so I would check in with your child, what's your understanding of this trip? Because finding out later we're sleeping in a tent when that's not what I thought we were going to do, or feeling cheated that that's not what I thought because you said camping, so that means this. Having that discussion ahead of time is really helpful, so that once we get there, we know what's a part of that, and not feeling surprised that I didn't know we were going to be on a plane for this, or I didn't know that we would have to drive so far, or that we wouldn't have electricity and I can't bring every battery that our house has. And so I think clarifying what their understanding is can be really important.
And just to add to that as well, you mentioned like saying that they felt maybe cheated out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I would respectfully disagree with that. What I experienced with that is that, especially when I was younger, again, like I said, going on a trip is kind of a big change for the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have certain expectations, and then when something goes in a way that you're not expecting it, all of the mental preparation you've done for this, all of a sudden, is no longer relevant.
Sure.
So then, my brain is trying to grasp the situation, but in that heat of the moment type thing, it's trying to find the accommodation to make this adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
And so adrenaline takes over and executive function skills decrease.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that.
So questions, comments, feedback, input? Yes?
I would also say about, and I heard the train trip, know your environment. Train rides can be tough for kids, especially when you get a little motion sickness. And a train is not a real good, factor for that. I can make that tough.
I was on a train ride from here to Milwaukee, and oh, motion sickness. I was in the hospital dehydrated.
Well, and I would think sensory issues as well. I can speak to one that we experienced. We were on an airplane and we were behind the engine, and it was really, really loud. And the only saving grace was that we had headphones with music and videos and games to help drown that out. Otherwise, the noise alone would have been a huge issue.
Yeah.
It was when we took off, because you aren't allowed to use your electronic, well, they changed some of the rules, but at that time, no electronic devices were allowed, and they didn't even want you to have your headphones on, so they knew you weren't using them. And takeoff and landing were pretty intense for him because of the noise.
And I would also include hotels in that, because you might request a non-smoking room, but in some states they might allow smoking in some rooms. So even though no one has smoked in your room, that doesn't mean the hallway doesn't smell, or that the rooms next door don't smell, or that people aren't in the restaurant. And so we always recommend calling ahead, asking some of those specific questions, bringing your own favorite toiletries. So he's got the same soap, same body products, so we're not using what's there, getting an unanticipated rash, or having that smelly hair smell in my hair all day. And so any of those favorite comfort items from home. And some people are really flexible travelers. My husband will use shampoo from anywhere, and it blows my mind. But everyone has their favorite thing. So use what's familiar and what's from home that you can bring that makes some of those things similar. Maybe it's a favorite pillow that your child sleeps with every night that you want to pack and put on that bed to make it feel more comfortable, to help with some of those transitions. Especially if you're going to be in different rooms each night or going multiple places, it can get harder to settle in if we don't have, this is our base camp for the trip, and we're just going to do these day things.
And we traveled with a weighted blanket as well.
It's a really good idea, though, to bring them from home just to kind of keep something familiar along with it.
Any questions? Prepared? Yes, Barb.
Well, I just want to reiterate something that Emily said about making things really clear and understanding. And I'm thinking of our little guy who thought a Disney cruise was a boat to Disneyland. And so a lot of what sometimes we have a really clear understanding of may be very different for them. So to be just very detail oriented. I've worked with families who have done picture books. Here's what we're going to be doing. Here's what it looks like along the way. Jen's nodding because I think she knows what I'm talking about here. But they did a really nice picture book of here's where we're going, here's what it's going to look like. Parents who have given kids maps, the guys who like the maps, so they can sort of follow where we're going. Pictures of the hotel ahead of time. The virtual tours are really nice that you can do online so that kids know what to expect. And then family who said the best vacations they ever had is when they rented an RV and drove, because then they got to cook all the same food that the child was used to. They had all the bedding from their house that the child was used to. And they said it was, without question, the best vacation the family had ever had, even though they were having to drive. It made things so much better, and the family then enjoyed their time together, and nobody was melting down, and nobody was having issues. So, and I'm curious if anybody else has tips of what you've done with your kids, or how your vacations or summers go.
Before we went to Disney, we did social stories.
Yeah.
Bobby does not like when anybody gets in front of him in line.
Right.
So we had to, okay, I'm in the line at the tire restaurant, and someone steps in front of me. I am going to count in my head. I am not going to shove them out of my way. I am not going to punch them in the stomach. Which, you think, why would you have to do that? We all know these. Some of the things we did work with our kids. We went through that with some of the rides that we looked at. We really like roller coasters, and we just prepared them. Mom is not going on every roller coaster with me. We're going to do some single riders. Mom will stand here. And we went through every step of the way. And we relaxed. No meltdowns at all.
That's a concern of mine. I'm hoping to take my son to Universal Studios and stuff, and the crowds and the lines are, and even at Valley Fair, we have gone once, one time limit. I'm just wondering, are there other things that I can
Well, I was going to say, I know at Disney World and Disneyland, if you have a note from your therapist or doctor stating
Not
your
anymore.
child, not anymore.
No, they'll change that.
Oh, I would call
They're
ahead to
getting
the park.
that the disabilities folks are starting to try to get them to rethink that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's
but
okay.
That's a fairly recent change, that they're not allowing you to skip the lines.
We couldn't
So-
do that when we went to Disney, but they told us all we needed to do was catch a cast member, and they would get us to a 5 location.
Sure. And so I will
talk to one of the staff
I
there.
think
There are
they-
places to go get a
call
call.
ahead.
I think that's the key, is calling ahead and finding out what accommodations they can provide or what support they can provide. Because, I mean, there were some people that like really messed it up for everyone. People who were abusing the system. So there's a reason they did that, but calling ahead and seeing what you can expect from them. And that gives you the opportunity to set expectations ahead of time as well, in terms of lines and
Give
things
us
like
the
that.
opportunity to prepare, Bob, and have you in, like you said, on some of the planning. You know, if I melt down, what am I gonna do? What are my choices gonna be? We got the map of the park. I found out where all of the restaurants were going to be, so we could sneak into a quiet corner. Yeah, there's lots of things you could do, just go on our website and get all the information you can. And you know, your kid, you're gonna have no problem with your favorite events are gonna be. Look and see what's around there, where you're gonna be spending the most time.
Right, and I can see, like, I think John mentioned that, you know, I can see where my son will, he will prepare himself and do what he needs to do to get through something if he really wants to do it.
Mhm.
You know, waiting in line for 45 minutes for monster truck driver signatures is okay, but he's wore out afterwards. You can tell that he's reached his limit of waiting. And the other thing that with flying, his ears bother him so bad that is there anybody have experience with that?
Chewing
Because
gum.
he doesn't swallow when the chewing gum. I've tried that, and I think it's because he doesn't really like swallow, and that's what will make your
Oh.
pop. But
Can I suggest the Camelback water bottles that you have to suck on to get the water out, like sucking on a straw?
Yeah.
But a regular straw doesn't give enough resistance, but the Camelback, or if your child's willing to use like a baby bottle, anything, bring it empty and then ask them to fill it like on the airplane for you with something. But that sucking motion does a lot to help.
okay.
Yeah, so if you haven't plugged your nose and blow gently, that'll force
Try. Practice ahead of time.
Yeah, exactly.
But the baby bottle, I think, really
Go
good.
ahead.
Well, I've got a question for the panel here. Everybody seems to have trouble with meltdowns, and we do too, morning and evening. And,
Our son does.
yeah.
Oh, I have them in mine, so.
So I'm wondering if you guys have, I'm sure everybody has a different trigger, but I was wondering if there's any common denominator that triggers a meltdown that you guys are aware of.
It varies from person to person, but basically it's when you hit a point where your mental resources are drained, you're going to be a whole lot more vulnerable to a meltdown. I think that is one of the things that really boils down to is when your energy is spent, you're a lot more vulnerable, so that's going to happen a lot easier.
Any little change, and
Unexpected change that can happen. Big changes definitely. So yeah, we've kind of come up with two common denominators there. That helps to answer everything.
So, is explanation ahead of time, does that help you make the change? Or
Yes. Yeah, understanding what's going to happen ahead of time instead of just having it happen all of a sudden. That will help.
have you lived in such a way where it's just not an issue anymore? I mean, is that not an issue now for you?
I'm more, I'm able to be a lot more flexible with changes now than I was before, so yeah, it does get better. It definitely does improve, yes.
Well, that's a big help right there, thank you.
You know, the other thing that I would say is you're seeing them in the morning and in the evening. When she is in a safe place. And that, for us, our son will hold it together all day long, still will hold it together all day long. And then if it's been a taxing day, he's 11, he's in the back seat, and we'll be coming to the house, and I know I have to prep him, I know I have to say it up front because it hasn't become habit yet. Make sure that you take your backpack and your trumpet into the house, please, when we get home. And there are days when he can cooperate, and there are days when he just says, no, I don't think so, and goes into the house. And if I push it, it can become a meltdown very quickly, but he's with me and it's safe, and he knows that I love him no matter what, and I'm not going to judge him or reject him. And that's part of the reason that it happens with us, John.
Just reminded me, the way that you were saying that with how he's saying that definitely sounds very familiar to me. There are times where you are, at the edge of a meltdown, and we know it. And so we are trying our very hardest to keep it together. So at that point, I will just have to say no to something and just go and do something else. So I think that's what's happening right now with the backpack. He's at the very edge of a meltdown right there. So he just denies, just cannot bring it in right now because he's trying his best to keep it together. And it's just the way that, he says it, nope, like, yeah, I cannot do this right now. I'm done. So give him some time to get past what he's going through, and then you can ask him again, and he'd be a lot more willing to do so. Did I add any insight?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
So what does that look like? Sitting in the car and waiting a while? Or going in the house and coming back out and carrying the things in?
Go in the house. Go in the house to a very familiar setting for a while. And then just try to clear your mind, and then go back out and get back after the trumpet.
When our son gets to the place where he's just had enough, it's very busy day, and he's having I ask him to do something, he'll say no sometimes, and I just wait a while.
Yeah.
Don't say it again, and then he'll do it.
Yeah, I do that too. If I can't do something right, then someone asks me to do it, and I just can't do it,
Yeah.
I'll wait until I'm able to, then I go and do it. I don't have to be asked again. So,
But right, it is usually in the morning and in the evening.
because you're trying to hold it together in the middle of the day, especially in school, and trying to just do something, and then your resources are spent, and so you're vulnerable in the evening. In the morning, you're just getting up, your resources that are lower, just from tiredness probably as well. But
Maybe anticipating what's to
anticipation,
come.
yeah,
Is that-
anticipation, yeah.
Yeah, I got one other follow-up there. Did you have to use medication at all?
Yes.
Did that help you get through those transition times?
Yes.
During the day?
Yeah.
So, in the morning and at night, is the medication level at the lowest for you? Or you didn't sense any help from medication? Or
No, I just didn't help from medication, yeah.
Was that as a child too, John, or did you not have meds?
I had meds as a child as well,
Okay.
yeah.
I've just often wondered if the medication is starting to wane at the end of the day, if it's a lot harder to make decisions versus the middle of the day where it seems like you get through all that stuff a lot easier.
And that could be, yeah, some medications do have a very short half-life, so it will last the entire day. But I still think that it is coming down to the fact that his resources are spent, he's getting worn out, and so he's more vulnerable. But it could also be, medication just might not be lasting the entire day. So I just say talk to your doctor, see if you can have maybe a half a dose a little later in the day or something.
And we started doing that, that's how.
Okay.
We started giving them a little bit right after school.
Still guarantee them.
Right. But any little help is helpful, so, yeah.
But when John was in grade school, at noon, there'd be like 6 or 8 kids lined up at the nurse's office to get their meds at noon in the middle of the day.
So yeah, I have medication given to me in the nurse's office right at noon, so in the middle of the school day.
For me, it was right away when I got for school, and then again about towards the end of school, then they would give me around.
That would eat you through to time to go to sleep?
It has a very short, it's time to, I don't know, last about 6 hours.
Does anyone know of some place that does swim lessons that is experienced at working with kids on the spectrum?
I know if you,
IMCA does. Yeah.
I know if you check in the, I don't know, it depends on where you live, the More Community magazine, they have a section right in the middle for special needs. And I think there's a couple of sections on that in there.
Okay.
Like they said, the YMCA, Cordia does, MSU I know has lessons.
And MSUN's lessons are private, one-on-one, which is a good thing for our kiddos.
And there is a guy at MSUM on the spectrum who's an instructor, so that's pretty cool too. He'll do
As far as high school athletics, the coach of the North High boys swim team is also a special ed instructor and works with kids on the spectrum. So he's been very accommodating to kids on that team. And things like swimming and track are really great sports because it's an independent team sport. I'm responsible for my event. It's not, I'm going to throw a ball to someone if they don't catch it. He ruined it for me. It's, I can do my events and rely on myself and do my own thing, but still be a part of a team and have that. So some things like that can be really great fits for kids on the spectrum to have that team participation, but still the independent of, I can choose how many events I want to do. If I just go to the meet and I do one event, that's good. So there's some flexibility in those two without saying, I have to play soccer for how many minutes before I get to take a break? That can be pretty overwhelming.
And I know too, there's the Challenger softball league. I know if anyone's heard of that. They did play that at
The Miracle Field.
Yep.
Yeah, our son has done that for about 8 years. Knocks them out of the park.
So I know that we have information on Challenger baseball as well as Top Soccer is another adaptive type of activity. We have information on both of those in the brochure or in our flyer. I will tell you the Top Soccer if that's of interest at all. I know that they are, the website that's listed there probably doesn't have information yet. They're still working on it. When we got the information, she was like, hopefully by, in a couple of weeks. But you could call Tri-City because it's done through Tri-City.
North Dakota Special Olympics track starts this next week
Special Olympics track
for North
starts.
Dakota.
Okay.
All the information's on the North Dakota Special Olympics website.
I know that we're also, Prairie for the last 2 summers has done summer camps here on site. Those are half-day camps and each one's a special area of interest. So hopefully none of you are copyright lawyers here, but we had a Minecraft week that we called Cube World. We this summer have had a request for a Pokemon week. We've done excuse me, a mad scientist week and a medieval week where we talked swords and dragons and all kinds of fun things. We plan one field trip with each of those and have bringing guest speakers, and it's a lot of hands-on activities. We operate in really small groups, and there's a lot of flexibility, and it's all geared for kids on the spectrum. We do not have our information about those yet because dates haven't been set, but I do have a sign-up sheet on the back table. So if you're interested in information, just your name, address, and email, as soon as those are ready, we'll get those out to you. And there are scholarships available, again, I believe, this summer from Red River Asperger's Network as well.
What ages are you targeting?
We've had as young as 6 and I think as old as 17, and we try and group them by ages. But because of the flexibility and high staff ratio, that even if we have some younger kids and some older kids in the same session, we've been able to split them up into different areas, and it's worked pretty well.
Thank you.
Thanks for my plug.
Thank you for mentioning it.
No problem.
Last weekend it was really nice out. The kids wore flip-flops, and when they came home, it was the flip-flops that just set them off. And I don't know how, I mean, I can't cut everybody's feet off, so I'm just at a loss with them. What
Who
to
is
do.
wearing the flip-flops, your child or somebody
The
else?
other kids.
The other
He
kids.
doesn't like their feet shown,
Sure.
because they've been covered up all winter.
Oh, okay.
It could, yeah. He doesn't mind his own feet, but when other kids have their feet out, it just set them off.
I think that's a tricky one because it's hard that sometimes the things that are triggers for us aren't things we can control and change.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes it's that hard conversation of, you're right, that's tough, that's really hard. As much as you'd love to call every kid's parent and say, hey, you need to stop wearing flip-flops, you know. But there will be, unfortunately, parts that we can't control. So I think a lot of the ideas that people are coming up with for different situations, we do our best to plan ahead and set our child up to be successful, but we always have a plan B of going, okay, if this doesn't work, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? How are we going to handle this? And so I think part of it is, you're right, it's one of those things we can't control, so then we go to plan B of what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? You know, do we find out ways that if some kids are wearing flip-flops, can I go be, you know, on the other side of the room, or can I put some space between myself and them? Or if it's a sensory thing, if it's the noise, can I put in earplugs? What are some ways we cope with things that we can't change or control, like flight delays or rain on the day that we plan to go to the park? You know, sometimes it's okay to say, you're right, that really stinks. I can see how that would be frustrating. And sometimes even acknowledging that helps them feel validated, going, you're right, this is crummy. And it sometimes feels better knowing that other people acknowledge the crumminess of that situation, and we can kind of try and figure out what would be helpful, how can we move on. And I appreciate that, you know, I know those flip-flops are driving you nuts, but you haven't punched that kid for it, and I appreciate that. I know you're really upset. What can we do instead right now that would be helpful, and kind of trying to redirect to something else. And it's tough because, you're right, some of those things you just go, we can't change it. And that's hard.
Or lots of bowling all summer, right? Because they wear shoes in
They do
bowling.
wear shoes. Yes. And sometimes it's flip-flops out of context. Flip-flops at the pool are okay, but when they're in my class and everyone's been wearing them, then it's really hard because it's that unexpected change and it's out of context. It shouldn't be here. It would be like seeing a dragon at the dentist. You go, that's not right. You know, it doesn't belong here. And so part of it could be context. There could be some other things too because it was a change. And I think some of these things we look at, summer should be fun, and a Disney cruise should be fun, and our vacation should be fun, and we get frustrated because we go, you're at Disneyland, why aren't you having fun? This is the happiest place on earth. And it's not for everybody. And so changing what our expectations are and helping them cope and understanding what we can change and what we can't can all be really helpful, even when it's hard, because sometimes it's just hard.
And a lot of times though, you know, there's a change, there's that initial anxiety, there's that initial frustration, but your brain will adjust. The brain will adjust. Just give it some time and it will adjust. I've had that happen to me a lot where there's that initial absolute frustration, and then my brain is able to adjust, and I feel a lot more comfortable about it, and I can really accept something. So
Maybe it's just, it was the first weekend of it? And
yeah, so give it maybe a week from now, the flip-flops won't even be an issue.
we'll all keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, yeah.
What else? Prepare, oh, Barb, sorry.
I just want to serve as a final word to bring up safety issues, that when you're going to unusual or new places, to identify safe places to go, like you talked about, Shell, if people get separated, and to even take a look at monitoring devices that kids can have, whether it's in a phone, or you can also get them in bracelets or other kinds of things too, so that worst case scenario, you are able to know where the child is, and make sure that they know where to go or who to talk to, because if it would get freaked out, could take off, and so sort of echoing again Emily with plan for the good stuff, plan for the maybe not so good stuff, and plan for alternative scenarios.
I have one family that I work with where each of the kids wear bracelets with their name, their phone number. It's on the inside of the bracelet, and then on the outside might say, you know, I have autism or something that might be their special need or allergy, so that if they're in a spot where they're having a hard time articulating what they need, that there might be a staff person or safety person that could identify that and have that contact information. Taking a picture of your family in the morning before you go out can be really helpful. So you've got that on your phone, that if so-and-so goes missing, here's my most recent photo, here's what they're wearing today, here's their height in relation to their siblings, here's where we started our day. Having that, it takes 2 seconds, and at the end of the day, you've got a picture every day for your scrapbook of your family, you know, doing your fun thing. And for kids, it's not something that's going to make them anxious, because it's normal to take a family picture, whereas some things, planning, like you think I'm going to get lost, might get stuck in their head of what we do. But kind of some of those subtle things you can kind of build in as plan Bs can be really helpful.
The bracelets, I know my boss, he has a runner's bracelet.
Yeah.
And got them for his boys as well. So it's a cool thing, right? Because runners are cool, you know,
Yeah.
and
You can get them on your shoes or all kinds of fun things.
exactly. So finding something that your child connects with, so that it's not a thing that makes them stand out in a negative way,
Yep.
can be really helpful. So, yes.
I worked at an Easter Seal camp with special needs kids. Are there any in the tri-state area even camp for ASD kids? Like
That's a great question.
Camp for a week or two, or?
Camp Jurassic, Elvis Camp Jurassic, I went there and I did a 2-week. I know the director of the camp, Dan.
Is there a week like when ASD kids go there?
There is a week there. It's towards the end of their summer.
And I've had kids go to other camps, but we do some education with the camp counselors ahead of time. And other camps have been great, like Camp Cormorant and some of those. You send information to them so that they know ahead of time expectations, sort of a welcome letter about the child, and even the language camps for Concordia and things like that. We sent information ahead of time to the camp counselors or the medical staff or whoever is there about here's what you can expect, here are things to do calm, here are the triggers, you know, just sort of a nice overview, and kids have done very well. People just need to know.
Molly had something to add?
Yeah, Lincoln Press in Alexandria has something called the Super Camper Program. The Super Camper Program pairs a para with 1 or 2 special needs students. They stay with them in their cabin, they hang around them, and they help supervise them. They help keep them calm and help keep them in meltdown during different things that they do.
Awesome. Thanks, Mom.
What was the name of that?
Luther Crest is the name of the camp, and it's called the Super Camper Program.
Are they ASD kids or all special needs kids?
All special needs kids, but they work with ASD kids too.
So if you had, especially like the camps, if you could write that down on your feedback form, that would be awesome. So that we can, because I know that we didn't have any camps as part of our materials that we made available today. We're looking to make all this information available on our website so that people have easy access to the information. So having that additional information, we're a community, and any way that we can support each other, any way you can give us information, we can get it out to other folks so that we all can be supported, and we would really appreciate that. So thank you all for coming, and have a great day, and good luck with, we changed the question mark to an exclamation point, so it may be that you just have to redefine the word fun.